3. We're live, everybody. Oh my goodness. Dan with Darshan Kulkarni. What could go wrong?
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I know. You want to root for the Arizona Wildcats because, I'm a huge sports guy. Huge.
That's right. They scored a touchdown recently, I believe.
I know what that means. means.
Darshan, we were just talking, man. The life of a attorney and with a pharmacist background.
Yeah.
Is a lot of people probably like, oh, it's such a glamorous life. Darshan's on back to back. I'm probably missing a few. Call.
I think there are a couple of backs more. Yeah.
And then you jump on a podcast, man.
Here's the thing. You missed a very important part of that. There's literally no one else I would have jumped onto this podcast for. You are the only person I would jump onto this podcast for. When Dan Sfera calls, you show up.
Well, thank you for that. But you're a hardworking man because you have your own pod, and I know you regularly publish, so you must have a lot of days like this, even without me asking you to come on. You still go and film.
I recorded 2 podcasts today.
You're a beast.
Well, I learned from the beast.
No, I don't do that many calls, man. Chris gets on the calls now, so I could just sit back.
You're now like a bigger picture guy.
I have one-on-one meetings with every staff member every time I'm here. I don't care what they're doing. We're going to sit for 10 minutes. Do you know, I wish I can equate the ROI of that 10 minutes with each staff. We were able to find an extra screening. We were able to get an extra visit done today because of another 10-minute call. We were able to get a laptop from the other clinic that has access to the doctor's EHRs because of another 10-minute call. And then I got a screen failure from the last 10-minute one-on-one to be scheduled for another study for next week. That's ROI right there. That's 40 minutes. That's probably a good amount of money right there.
But what is Dan Sfera's time worth? Is it worth more than that?
It could be worth nothing. It could be worth nothing. It could be worth... Dan Sfera's time is worth whatever output we put out. Because you're going to love what I do with this.
Okay.
I'm not a government agency or a quasi-government agency where I get grants. So if I don't produce, my time's worthless, actually. Negative. It's a liability. My time would be a liability if we don't produce.
Well, I would argue that you've moved away from what is my time worth to what value do I bring.
There you go. You talk about this a lot, actually.
Yeah,
I've heard you talk about this.
I think as professionals, we always try to measure our value in number of dollars per hour. Mm-hmm. And I think that is great until you hit that next peak. That next peak is you can't measure what I do in hours. Like it's like when you go to Shark Tank. You don't measure what the sharks bring to you in dollars per hour. You look at them and you go, how much will you be able to scale my business just because you're a part of it? But by the way, you're freezing on me a little bit. Is that my side or yours?
Don't worry, it's my side, but I'm at the office, so here it's kind of choppy occasionally. But I always come back. It's like a boomerang. No matter how far I go or much I freeze, it'll come back. Don't worry.
Okay, fair enough.
The key with that thing, because it sounds great, get away from your hourly fee to value.
Yeah.
The missing piece and the part that gets everybody is you can no longer operate that way on your own. You need other people at that point.
You do.
And that's where retention
actually, that's not
matters.
True. That's not true. I've operated as a solo on a value basis where you go, I will do this project for X amount. You could find someone to do it for X minus 50, but that's not what I bring to the table. If that's what you need, go for it. God bless.
Well, I guess when it comes to scalability of it, though, like if you want to do that multiple times at the same time, simultaneously,
right?
That's where you need people. And my job, once we get this clinic stabilized, my job really has become I'm a coach to these staff. Like when I was working in the business, my patients, because I was directly involved with them, was my priority.
Right.
Now the patients are my coordinator's priority. My coordinators are my priority. And if I empower them, they're going to take care of the rest. Because I don't know who the patients are anymore. I just know the outliers. This
Right.
one said this. This one wants to complain. This one's very happy. This one wants to do another study. That's where I get in. But the day-to-day, I don't know them anymore. And that's why we can scale.
But I think what we're sort of talking about is what does the next level look like, right? So we're talking about you and me, but we're also talking about Doge, and we're talking about the next level of government. Is it moving from day to day to what does that next level bring? I mean, let's be clear. I have never been a big fan of change for the sake of change. That pisses me off because that's just cost for no good reason.
Aren't you a change agent?
I am a change agent, but change for the sake of change is crap. Some would say the agent of havoc as well, but it is what it is.
Well, you are a black belt. What's your finishing move when the other guy gets dizzy and it says finish him? What do you do?
You throw the hat that chops his head off. Remember that one?
I think your finishing move is you write a lawsuit and you throw it at them like a blade, and then it decapitates.
I'm just glad you didn't go down the Dalsim route. With the, do you remember Dalsim?
No, that'd be racist, man. I'm not.
That's slightly racist, yeah.
I went making fun of your career.
I know. I'm good with that. I'd be funny with
better. You throw a lawsuit, litigation time, and then they get decapitated.
There you go.
That'd be
or dead by 1,000 lawsuits. So they all go into them. See,
because you can't pay 1,000 attorneys, but if you are one attorney,
exactly,
you're good. Lana, we were just talking about you. Lana's on the live stream.
Lana Lang?
Lana's here. She's our director of community outreach. Ooh. Come here real quick. You're not going to be able to hear them. Just talk for 30 seconds. We had a 10-minute meeting today, right?
Yes. You can't feed her. What did she do?
What happened out of it? What happened? She can't hear you. What happened from it? We got a patient today.
Did a visit?
Because of it, right?
Correct.
See? 10 minutes. Wait, they can't see you. There's Lana. She also decorated the background. Shout out to her.
Oh, see, Lana's in charge of everything.
Lana's in charge of everything. That's right. But see, proof that those meetings work. Take it easy, Eddie. Have a good one, man.
What did Eddie do?
Eddie's Lana's son. He comes here and chills sometimes. We do launch mode in the TRX, dude. Have a good weekend, guys. But you see, this is the ROI of these one-on-ones.
So we have a question for you, by the way. Any update on the ARO from the last discussion?
No. There will be an article tomorrow I'm posting on my LinkedIn newsletter, Photios.
Photios?
Is that like a Roman soldier?
It sure looks like it. I don't know Photios. I'm going to look that up.
It looks like a Praetorian. I'm in full gladiator mode.
Did you see it? Did you enjoy Gladiator?
Greek. Okay, Greek. Well, the Greeks were the ones who inspired. Leonidas.
Medical patriarch of Constantinople.
Okay. Respect.
Eastern Orthodox.
I'm getting into the Greeks next right now. And I'm into Seneca and Epictetus, but I need to go further, like Plato, Aristotle. That's next.
Why are you now Leonidas? But this is Sparta.
This is Sparta. Sparta, while we should admire their warrior spirit, their culture was not to change. This relates exactly to this topic. Their culture was, let's keep things the same. We are not open-minded. We do not want new ideas. They did not idolize current philosophers. They only idolized philosophers of old.
They were just warriors. That's all they were.
Pure warriors. And they still ended up defeating Athens.
Well, they defeated Athens, but then you had the Persians who took them down.
Correct. Yeah. The History of the Peloponnesian War is a good book on this.
Well, I watched 300. That's what I know.
Hey, that's a badass. That's your finishing move right there.
That was amazing.
But it actually relates to Sparta. Which one would Doge be? Department of Government Efficiency. Would they be Athens or Sparta? And would Biden be Athens or Sparta in this analogy.
I don't know enough to comment on it.
I think
Sure.
Doge would
You
be
tell me.
Athens. I think
Why?
Doge would be Athens, but the thing that the critics would argue is they're lacking the virtues. But the thing that Doge would say is, no, we actually have virtues and they're insulting to you. But there are virtues.
Photios is really a big fan.
Photios said Biden would be Athens.
I have no way of knowing if that's true or not.
I don't know.
You guys are playing in a different league right now.
I think Trump would be Athens.
I need Sauber in here. I need Sauber to help.
No, Sauber wouldn't be good for this one. We need like Edie Edens in here actually for this.
Well, she's busy right now.
Okay, next time. She's on 20 calls. If you're on 10, she's on 20.
Damn. Damn.
Nothing. AROs is coming up tomorrow on my LinkedIn. A newsletter drops where AROs are being discussed more in depth.
So what was the conversation the AROs about?
Robert brought it up on After Dark.
Yeah, I heard. I walked the tail end of that, so I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, academic research organizations. They used to offer everything to sponsors except the monitoring, right? So like everything a CRO would offer, except the monitoring component. But now they're adding the monitoring layer on top of it too, and it's like 10x cheaper than a bid from a private CRO.
So I work with a lot of AROs, and I think that number one is ARO specific. I don't think that's always true. I also don't think that you can actually monitor yourself. That would probably be deemed to be problematic. You can. I'm trying to figure out how you would actually how the FDA would look at that. The FDA has been cracking down a little bit more. I don't know if you've been seeing the MDs. If the MD works for your site and then you actually have your own site monitor and self-monitor your study, probably not going to go very well. Your IRB probably should not be approving something like that just as easily because you need independent review.
There are CROs that do this, that own sites and do this, and they separate the units enough to where with SOPs and everything.
I think the FDA would struggle with that a little bit more. I know they do it. I've seen that. I've worked with sites and sponsors.
I mean, it's common sense to struggle. You know, if you get the average person off the street and tell them the scenario, they would struggle with it too.
It's literally the fox in charge of the hen house.
Exactly, but it's being done. You know, and there's money there, and there's money being made. I don't know if the AROs are doing it for the money necessarily, or to have access to like the tech transfer office and private public partnerships and all that kind of stuff.
I think it may come down, depends on which format as well. I think sometimes it's coming from a sponsor investigator model. So it's for the smaller studies, not for the larger studies.
Yeah.
So in that scenario,
IITs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in the context of IITs, it may make a little bit more sense. But I don't think you could do a full-blown multi-center, multinational study by doing individual.
There was one 2 years ago that I came across my desk, which was just an abstraction for my inbox. And it was from a well-known academic medical center with an NIH grant, this is the exact thing that I think will be disrupted by the Doge administration. And they were kind of what we talked about to start out, trying to scale their own study to the communities at large. But the budget sucked. The budget was awful, man.
NIH budget tend to be terrible.
Yeah, I turned it down like faster than you can send Lana to go buy dry ice. That's how fast.
I actually, I work with academic institutions, right? A lot of academic institutions will be part of studies not because they're going to make money, because they add prestige.
Exactly.
Number two, you'll be part of these NIH grants because it's part of a larger plan that you have, and there's a whole marketing budget that goes around. We got this NIH grant of this amount of money. Well, you're losing money on that $5 million you make. Yeah, but I got $5 million that I can put on my resume. So that's the other reason you do it. I've seen an NIH grant where, especially in like cancer and stuff, you'll see. I don't know if that's the type of study you had. It might be an NCI funded, NIH funded kind of thing. But in those specific instances, you'll have different nonprofits that'll manage, but the individual individual sites are AROs, and you still have oversight from a third party, like the nonprofit, for example. So I'd need to know more details about why a multi-center would enable self-monitoring. That seems problematic for me.
Yeah, and I think Robert was just talking about the beginnings of this, like, and I think it was smaller studies because he works in early phase, very early. So, but it means it might be coming. Like maybe it's a thing in the future, and maybe it's this is also anecdotal, but a lot of people from government institutions, the hospital in my town, Yuma Regional Medical Center. Oh, pardon me. They changed their name to Onvita to better reflect their values, aka they got sued, and then they'd have to change their name. Yeah, their research center, of course, it's to better represent their values, but aka we got sued. They shut down.
But why did they get sued? That seems like a pretty normal region-based name. Why did they get sued?
They didn't get sued for their name. They got themselves deep in some lawsuit and trying to rebrand.
Got it. Okay.
But they said it's to better reflect their values. They need to read more philosophy, is what I say. But their entire research department got shut down.
Oh, really?
It's probably not related to the lawsuit, but I think it's related to possibly the election.
Oh.
Because I think a lot of their studies were from, and they did a lot of oncology, so NCI, and these kind of things, and then a lot of rare disease, which a lot of people are rightfully concerned. Like, what's going to happen to rare disease during this administration? I don't know. I don't have an answer. I mean, you're smarter than I am. What do you think about rare disease?
So I think rare diseases, for example, this surprises a lot of people. You don't fund rare diseases because you're going to make money off of them. Every so often you get those drugs, but the real reason you do rare disease is for the voucher, and you sell that voucher. Are you aware of this or no?
Yeah, I'm aware. Yes.
Okay. So that's why a lot of these companies do these rare disease studies just to be bought out.
The voucher is valuable. I owned a biotech that had a voucher, and the shareholders were arguing around what that's worth and all that stuff. But that's how I'm aware.
We need. I had actually. I don't know if you remember. This is going back like 2013, 2014, maybe even earlier. You and I had a conversation about doing podcasts and just valuing biotechs and where that's a whole discussion we should probably talk about again, because that was a fun one.
I'd be down.
I feel like Fraud Pod here is expanding into all these other things. So this might need to become
fraud is so 2024. When Biden pardoned Hunter this week to really pardon himself, but let's not go into all that.
Right.
He said of all crimes from 2014 to present. And I thought
that was an interesting take.
You guys do the math, connect the dots yourself. 2 dots make a line, 3 dots make a plane.
Wait, what? Fraud. 2 dots make a line, 3 dots make a plank?
Plane.
A plane, okay. What do 4 dots make?
Walk the line. Do the math yourself, guys. All right? I'm not getting into that.
Okay.
Fraud is over.
Okay, fraud's over.
We've pardoned fraud. We are now moving on to the new regime, what it means for the industry and the biotech space.
Well, here's my question. What happens around biotech as, for example, TikTok being sold? I don't know if you read about this lawsuit.
Yeah.
So theoretically, it's due the day before Trump comes into power. And how is that
going to be spun off, right, into a U.S. subsidiary?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a U.S. subsidiary or has to change control altogether, which might be deemed to be problematic.
Sure. They have to sell it. Sorry, not subsidiary. They have to sell it off, spin the U.S. version off to another company.
Right. Which I don't think is being appreciated. But I think it's part of a larger scheme that's happening where you're seeing a lot of Chinese companies struggling with that. But we talked about the Biosecure Act in the past.
But what does that have to do with biotechs?
Well, so Wuxi, for example, is being targeted, and they can do a lot of work as long as those companies are going to land up doing work with the U.S. government.
Right.
And like 4, 5, 6 companies are being specifically targeted because they're part of the Chinese government in some way, and those are deemed to be problematic. So it's the same exact thing to me, whether it's TikTok, whether it's these biotech companies, they're deemed to be a threat to national security in some way.
But the U.S., not the U.S. biotechs, though.
No, the Chinese biotechs, is my point.
Sure. The Chinese, yeah, but no one's really invested in those.
I was at one point.
That's a risky one.
2013, 2014, that wasn't that risky.
I know. I had some Wuxi shares around that.
I lost a lot of money on some of those. But you get out and you keep moving.
You live, you learn. You would have been better off in Bitcoin around that.
Probably.
Not to rub salt in wounds, but you should have.
I'll just wait for it to go back down to 20,000. It does every so many years.
If you had a time machine, would you go back and listen to me on Bitcoin?
Yeah, probably.
Saying it's tulip.
Not because I still think it's tulips, just to be clear.
Sure.
But I still want to be the guy who sells the tulip for a house. And
then
wait for it to drop.
Or a couple beach houses.
Exactly.
So do you think it's safe to say fraud pod's over, or you just want to put on ice while this government...
I might end up doing fraud pod on my own until you're ready to come back on. That might be how I play it out. Because I think right now we are very in the moment. We're like a Zen pod. That's what this is, Zen pod.
The Zen pod. This is giving people anxiety. All these words, Trump, Musk, RFK, Vivek, is like anxiety, panic.
And that's what I mean. We go to where the world is. That's what this pod is. So today it's about Trump, Musk, Vivek, and RFK. Yeah. Tomorrow it may be something else, but that's what Zen pod is.
Zen pod. I like it, man.
See?
It's congruent with my latest philosophical
leanings.
Appetite.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
So in Zen pod today, I think the other bit of news in terms of toppling the executives, if you will, we actually saw someone being targeted, and I can't
believe we put Zen into assassinations in the same sentence.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's even in good taste. Well, I think I used the word Zen to suggest the now. Not
the Zen is more like us reassuring you that, hey, though things change, everything remains the same.
Yeah, and I to be fair, I think let's be very clear. At the very beginning, my condolences to the family. There's no justification for hurting someone like that. But it speaks to people being upset with in this case the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, but I think CVS just removed all of their executives' photos from the website. That's what I heard. Yeah. I don't know if it's true or not, but I saw that on Reddit.
I mean, an assassin or a disgruntled person's going to know how to listen to a quarterly earnings call.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, they're going to...
But I don't think that's what they're worried about, right? I don't think they're worried about someone who lost money. I think they're worried about...
But you don't need to be an investor to listen to the...
No, I think in the case of CVS, I think pharmacists are upset.
Oh, pharmacists. I got you. Okay.
There was a woman who was a pharmacist. She literally died on the job.
Small retail pharmacies, or
no? This is the pharmacists working for CVS are very upset. They're quitting the job and leaving.
Why? Because of the low pay, or
no? The pay is not horrible. It's just the I've worked these jobs, right? And you don't stop standing. There's a line of 50 people waiting for you at all times. It's worse than McDonald's in terms of just the sheer amount of stuff that's coming at you. And you're going, I went through 6 years of school. I went to help patients. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just a machine, a license that churns out medications. I just happen to be a human being. If you could get rid of me, you would have 50 minutes ago.
Yeah, and they probably will at some point.
And they will. And that's the problem. So I think executives across the board are going, number one, what does this mean? And number
But
two, how do we protect ourselves?
there's definitely seems to be a fractured America.
Yes.
But interestingly enough, it's not anti-business as I would expect.
Really? That's not how I read it at all. Tell me more. Why do you think it's not anti-business?
I mean, it's all anecdotal, but the postings I'm seeing, I saw something today on LinkedIn about Atlas Shrugged and how it's such a great book. And I mean, I agree, but I would think, Ayn Rand has basically, like, if she actually spoke today, well, pre-Trump, if she spoke this way, like during Biden reign, she would be canceled. Like saying stuff like what she's saying, the virtue of selfishness. And when you look at it on the surface level, you're like, no, this is a horrible rhetoric, but it's actually not. And I think there's a rising sentiment now that we shouldn't be anti-business. We should be pro-business. This is why Doge is Doge. They're all pro-business people, but it stops at healthcare. That's the exception. At healthcare, people are fed up, and people, especially when it comes to health insurers, PBMs, pharmacies, where people get their medications.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the violence is, and I mean, we've seen the violence this week, unfortunately. Like, people are not okay with healthcare companies making money. I've had many comments in the past on my YouTube channel stating, I don't think research sites should be privately owned. Like, there's a sentiment out there that it's cool to be pro-business, but once you get to healthcare, that's a different story. But if you remove private industry, you get inefficiency. Like, it's been proven time and time again, capitalism works.
Right.
But there are limits, I guess, and regulations are there for a reason. But that's the whole other thing that Doge is, I guess, purportedly trying to clean up, is the regulatory capture and the corruption that's inherent there. And, you can argue that these health insurers are top of that list when it comes to purported corruptions.
With the health insurers, next up comes the pharmaceutical CEOs.
Exactly. I mean, they've been number one, right? And the health insurers are right up there.
I have no idea who Photios is, but CVS.
Photios is a legend from Sparta. This is Sparta.
Well, I'm pretty sure this is Canada.
I'm in Canada. I use provincial healthcare credit card and basically just go to the doctors as needed, swipe and go.
What do you need the credit card for then? I don't understand how that works. Then just go to the doctor. Why do you need a card? Is there like a fixed amount of money you can spend?
Do you think the Canadian healthcare system would work in the U.S.?
I don't know enough about the Canadian healthcare system to know, but I think that what we have doesn't work.
Right. What do you think? What route should we head towards in the U.S.?
If I had to choose, I'm really a big fan of Medicare for all, some version of that.
And how would that work with health insurers, PBMs, and pharmaceutical companies in the mix? Like, how would that look like?
I think you might be able to do like a Medicare Advantage plan where you basically go, this company will administer it on behalf of the U.S. government, but everything appropriately is covered. There's a max price on what this costs. The administrative costs go down for physicians. Everyone sort of takes a little bit of a haircut on what this means. That includes the pharmaceutical industry, the PBM industry, everyone. Doctors, everyone's going to take a haircut. But I think it makes healthcare more affordable to the patient. But I think in exchange, maybe you decrease risk for everyone. And you say that you will get paid. You're not you're not wondering whether this thing's covered or not. It is. If it comes under the formulary, you're covered. So I think those issues, and there's clarity on purpose. I think NICE from the UK is a really good example of that. I don't fully know how Canada works. But yeah, NICE, I believe, has like a government system that covers most people. And then you have you can get add-on insurance that gets you better rooms or whatever it is. But people's basic needs are covered.
Yeah, I agree. I think some hybrid system should exist where those who can afford it can choose to pay for
additional stuff, but there's a basic system for everyone.
There's a basic for it. Correct. I think that would make sense. And if you want to opt out of that basic system, you can just pay private.
Yeah, sure. But that's always existed, right?
Well, not always, but I mean, in Canada, I don't think that's the case.
No, I think I can still go to Canada and just say I'm going to offer to pay privately and just pay you cash.
As long as you can control the costs at that point, and they're not like exorbitant, right? To where it's like theoretically legal but practically impossible.
Yeah.
And Fodio says, I book an appointment. When I get there, I swipe the card that registers with the government. Doctor gets paid based on service
provided.
That's
basically like what we have with health insurance. So how is that different?
Right. Well, it's because he's Canadian. He's proud of his.
No, that's fine.
Country.
But
I just hope you get Trudeau out of there. Now he's sweetened up. Trudeau sweetened up with
Trudeau has no choice. Mexico has no choice. They're like terrified right now. But
yeah.
I feel like Trump, like, let's be clear. The U.S. is the big bad wolf right now in the world, right? Which makes like saying we're going to put tariffs on people, that makes sense. I can see that. But when you start saying that to everyone, at some point they're just going to go, okay, we'll take it. We'll just work with ourselves. And I think I'm worried that he's overusing tariffs. He's doing the Oprah, you get a tariff and you get a tariff and you get a tariff. Like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work at a certain point. I don't know where at that point. But if you get enough multilateral agreements, as big as the U.S. is, it's not the only game in town.
Right. And it'll be interesting to see how quickly we can shift the infrastructure. Like, for example, from China to Vietnam, or from China to Mexico, or from China to what's the other?
Well, I think we're already doing that, right? We've been working at that for a while.
For automotive, yeah, and pharmaceutical. India is a big one too.
India's a big one. Vietnam's a big one. Indonesia is a big one. APIs again. I think for APIs it was always all the I's. So it was Ireland, Italy, India. I forget, there was another one. I have no idea why we're talking about U.S. shale and U.S. oil refineries.
It's Sparta, man. This is Sparta.
This is U.S. shale, but yes.
Just drill, baby, drill. That's for another podcast.
It's a different podcast.
I don't know enough about it.
Me neither. But yeah, so for me, I think that's what it comes down to. I think we need to have a better healthcare system that meets the needs of patients, and I think it's very clear that that we're not doing that, and people are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
And that's a function of there's just not enough money. And when you pull the veil back, I mean, there's not enough money to pay for it with all the stuff.
Is that true though? I don't know if that's true. Like, I pay a lot of money in healthcare, and I go, if you'd redirect my money, maybe I'll actually get better returns for it. Right now, I think you and I went through that administrative costs for charities, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You could do an equivalent of that. By the way, you froze. That's why I stopped.
The best ones on that list are 60%, only 60% to administration.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's the ones we looked at, but sure. I'm sure they're the best ones. But yeah, I mean, administration costs a lot of money.
The website literally ranked them in order of being best. Like, the top one was like only 65% goes to admin, and then so 45 goes to the actual cause.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's unfortunate, man. It should be close to 100% going to those causes. Like,
well, you just talked about how clinical research needs to make money. You still have to operate the business. You still need to operate the nonprofit.
Yeah.
So.
But that's outside of the government, like, paying for things.
Unless you literally have one guy working for free, which is not scalable. Right. I don't know how you bring cost to zero.
You get as close to zero as you can.
Yeah, so what does that look like?
It's like a function of doing community outreach. I just did a video on this. If a sponsor gives us $5,000, right, to do community outreach and advertising, it's my job to make sure we get the most ROI on that $5,000 as possible.
Sure, but what makes you think that you're not getting ROI on that nonprofit?
So there's clinics that utilize the money in less efficient ways.
Sure. So maybe
On
what you're
purpose
saying is,
sometimes.
fair enough. I think our friend Mr. Hightower called one out at one point, didn't he? Got into trouble for that.
He calls out everybody.
I know.
It's hard to keep track of who. I see Mr. Hightower Monday.
Yeah, I heard.
We're gonna meet up in San Diego.
By
the way, if you're a site in San Diego, I don't know what you're gonna do, but reach out to one of us, Judy or somebody.
I think if you are smart, you're going to make the SOS event is it March?
March in Oklahoma City, yeah.
Yeah.
The San Diego one's just a meetup for like local San Diego people, but we got people driving from LA, Phoenix, all over.
I think you need like local SOS chapters.
We're trying. I know. People have been telling us.
Yeah, there you go.
That's one of those definitely must do, but we got to like take care of our core product first. Like,
there you go.
Talk about scale.
The next
right?
wraps, the next DIA.
Next gen. Yeah, I'm coming after ACRP next.
ACRP. So what do you think is the next disruptive thing we're gonna hear?
There's disruptive things all the time, but what actually works?
Like Trump.
Oh, from Trump. I don't think it's going to be any one thing. I think the biggest, most disruptive thing that is going to happen is radical transparency on everything. Even RFK said, prepare your emails, have them ready. We're going to follow the cookie crumbs where they led to. We're going to find out a lot of shit this next quarter.
Well, you can still delete it under Biden's rules then, theoretically, right?
If he can pardon, I guess he can pardon everyone in the federal government, maybe.
Theoretically. I don't even know if you can. I don't know if it's ever faced constitutional scrutiny, this whole pardoning without a crime. I feel like you kind of need a crime first.
Right, but pardoning in anticipation of a crime means
but I don't
you're
know
aware that there's a crime.
Yeah, but I don't think you can really pardon without that. You need a charge sheet, I would think.
Well, he pardoned by Hunter from 2014 to present.
No, but there was a specific crime. There was a charge sheet, right?
No, this is what made it interesting.
Oh, really?
There was not specific things.
Interesting.
It was not like the cocaine, the laptop with the child porn, the whatever else he did. It was 2014.
No, I know. I know that's what the pardon went to, but I meant like there was a specific crime, whether it's a cocaine or whatever else. Someone sued him for that. So you can go, I'm covering all of it, but there's already something in place that I'm addressing. You can't, I don't think you can theoretically go, and I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Not my area. But the question is someone going to come back and challenge it? I don't know.
Well, the rumor was Trump was going to pardon Biden's son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to have and the same day that he would have pardoned the Jan 6 people. To like drive.
Who knows? Is that a risk you would take?
No, he would do it.
I don't know. If I was Biden, I'm not sure I'd take that risk.
Well, Biden, I understand being a father, not yet, but he would, you're going to pardon your son. But
right.
It looks like he pardoned himself too, a little.
Did he? I didn't see that.
Yeah. The Ukrainian coup. 2014. Photios knows because he studies Sparta. That was the time when the Ukrainian coup materialized, which many will say is a conspiracy theory. And if I had one wish for 2025, let's just remove conspiracy theory from our vernacular.
Well, that was the thing you came back with, right?
That's so dismissive of a term. Like, now, I understand it had a meaning at one point, but now it's just used to throw against someone who you don't agree with. Oh, no, you're a conspiracist.
No, there are definitely conspiracy theories. Let's be clear. Someone who goes, well, I heard yesterday.
Reptilians yeah, exactly. Are really the world.
There's a line. There's a line.
Sure. But
I don't know what that line is.
Just because the orthodoxy says this is not a conspiracy, then therefore anyone who disagrees is a conspiracy theorist.
So what is that line?
Well, that line gets pushed by who's in charge.
Sure, but what if the reptilians are in charge? Are we allowed to call them out or not so much?
If the reptilians are in charge, we're just like, we're living in a matrix, which I actually think we might be in a matrix.
Well, I think Musk came out and said that anyways.
Yeah,
right?
I'm with Elon on that one.
It's actually Hindu philosophy going back centuries that says that as well. But
I've read similar things, man. Yeah.
It's called Maya, but still.
Did they believe in the multiverse theory as well?
I think the closest way I understand Hindu philosophy is the closest thing would be what the Matrix is, in that think of us as basically a program.
Yeah.
And we're existing in Microsoft Word right now.
Yeah.
And you can close Microsoft Word and restart it again, and close Microsoft Word and restart it again.
Yeah.
And you can have I don't know, another app going on. You could have StreamYard going on, or Firefox going on. You can have Chrome going on.
Yeah.
So there are all these different things going on. We're just one piece of a microcosm that exists. Think of a game. We might be in one game of StarCraft.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's what it is.
But it makes sense when you look in quantum theory and superposition of atoms and photons, and it takes an observer for it to actually become a particle. And when you think about our brains, like our thoughts are superposition all the time. It takes our consciousness to actually make it real.
Just like mixing up words and just trying to make them make sense.
No, think about it.
Has nothing to do with this.
I went down a rabbit hole recently on this, and it's like
I've read about superimposition and superposition and the whole. I mean,
think about your own thoughts, right?
Sure, but that's not molecule. That's not superpositions.
I know, but it's fungible versus non-fungible. Like,
okay,
fungible is like if I give you $1, let's say I have 10, right? And I give you one. You don't care which one of those 10 I gave you. They're all the same, right? Sure. But when I choose it, it becomes that one. And then when you pay me back, same thing. Yeah. Right? So that's fungible. And then thoughts can also be fungible until consciousness is that hand that pulls it. And that becomes now.
I've never heard of thoughts being called fungible before. This is the first time I've ever heard it.
I know. It's because this was after mushrooms. This was after mushrooms.
You had a really good night with mushrooms, didn't you?
In fairness to me, it was after mushrooms. Yeah, it was wild. But my life has not been the same since having.
Good for you, though. Good for you for knowing what works for you. This is not us excusing the use of mushrooms or anything. Just to be clear.
This is Darshan as a pharmacist recommending.
No, I am so not. This is not clinical advice. This is not medical advice or legal advice. I just want to be clear that I read that, what's his name? Steve Jobs said that, what's his name? Bill Gates should have taken some mushrooms, and that would have helped him a lot.
And Steve Jobs should have taken more mushrooms, because I read he was a true asshole. Like, to his employees.
I heard that too.
Yeah. They should have done more mushrooms. RFK wants to do more research on psychedelics, speaking of that. So you have bunch of sites out there that are looking, especially psychiatric sites, looking to.
What qualifies a lawyer to head a lawyer with no real medical background to head HHS? I still don't know the answer to that question.
I think we should make you the psychedelic czar.
Yeah, but I actually have a medical, like a pharmaceutical degree.
Yeah.
But if I didn't, I don't know if I should be in charge. I don't know what qualifies me.
If you didn't have a healthcare degree, probably not.
And that's my concern.
The current one is an administrator as well, like no healthcare experience. No one cared. No one cared when he was in charge, because he's a yes man that says yes. The corruption will continue. Whereas now,
CEO of Pfizer, is he a clinician? He's not. So why do I hold the government to a different standard? There's an argument to be made for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's business. At the end of the day, it's all business, even government, I think.
Yeah, but then, okay, let's assume it is. Should a lawyer be heading a business? A lawyer who has no experience heading a business? If
the shareholders say yes, and the shareholders in this case are the citizens.
Well, the shareholders voted for someone completely different.
Knowing full well, in full disclosure.
No. They didn't. They knew that he might get a position, not that position.
Right. They knew he would get some arbitrary Maha position.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'm not saying good or bad. But
are you okay with RFK's appointment? or would you
I'm
vote
struggling.
against it?
I'm struggling. I don't know the man. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I try not to base it on people. I try to base it on issues.
Would you read his book?
If I could read a book, I can't get myself to read books, but theoretically, yes, I would absolutely read. I'd read
Or
anything.
Listen to his book?
Yeah, I would absolutely read anyone's book. You know where I'd start? Bubblegum Badge Inspector.
Well, that's Pat Stone. I mean, Pat Stone
Essential
made
reading.
RFK look tame. Pat Stone, I know the real Pat Stone. The guy's a straight up G, but he would be drastic in his actions. RFK would look like an angel compared to him.
I do need to run today because you and I talked. So, you're gonna cut this one a little short. I'm also starving is really part of it.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, I
7.
got some Cheez-Its before they're banned by RFK. I'm just getting my last bites in, my last morsels.
But this was a fun one again. We talked about all kinds of stuff because
So.
Photios was involved.
Photios, thank you. Keep fighting the good fight, my friend, up there in Canada.
We are gonna have to pull some topics to pull together. You know what? We should have people come on and tell us what they want to hear about. Because you and I can keep chatting every single time.
Yeah. We can have people come on. You want to find the guest next time, or?
Oh no, this is Sparta.
I think Edie Edens needs to come.
Oh, we can call Edie. You want me to call Edie next time?
Did you guys announce?
We're still working on stuff.
Okay.
But stay tuned for that news.
Okay. Yeah, we're not sure if
but yeah,
we'll have breaking news soon.
We'll have breaking news soon. It has to be on the Sfera podcast, the clinical trials guru.
That's right. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Go follow Darshan right now on his LinkedIn and underneath the show notes if you're listening.
You know what? You know what your new nickname should be? From Babyface to Scarface.
Scarface. Babyface to Botox face. And AQSD. Now you're speaking my language, Photios. I bought more today. The thing keeps going down. Fundamentals haven't changed. Fundamentals get better. Stock goes down. The algorithm says, I buy more.
Alrighty then.
All right.
Gentlemen, this was awesome. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you as well. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Bye-bye.